Spacious enough to hold the cast iron frying pan, woolen blankets, and ashplin pack baskets full of all the other gear necessary for a 19th century camping trip. In the 1880s and 1890s, a guide's pay was $2 to $3 per day. The usual arrangement was for each city sport to have his own guide with boat. The guide's job included camp chores and entertaining the guests in the evening, as well as rowing the boat. His fame was related directly to the quality of his tales and music, as well as to the quality of his cooking. The sport provided staple foods like cornmeal and beans, but he hoped that most of their diet would be trout and venison. Big game laws restricting deer hunting to the fall did not come into effect until the middle of the 1890s. The summer hunting season was due, it was said, to the influence of the city sports, who left the woods with the first hard frosts. Laws prohibiting jacking and hounding were established then as well, ending two sure methods of getting the sport his deer, for which the guide boat was essential. Today, hunters who travel by water usually guide themselves, and they usually go by canoe. Maps, guidebooks, well-traveled routes, and the automobile have eliminated the necessity for the guide and his boat.
The cricket stopped.
My ancestors, my grandpeople, came from Canada. We were born in Canada over a century ago, and we married young and came to the North Sea before they began children. I was young when I tried to go to school on Parliament. I went very little, and I was handicapped. I was a freshman, and I had no English. And I had tried to keep up with the class. I learned the language to start. I just went to school mostly.
In February 1932, the third Olympic Winter Games, the first to be held in the United States, took place at Lake Placid. There, J. Hubert Stevens and Curtis P. Stevens of Lake Placid won the two-man bobsled championship in the United States on the famous Mount Hodenberg bobsled run built in 1930 under the direction of Dr. Gottfried Dewey, president of the Third Olympic Winter Games Committee. Since 1935, the run has been 1,600 meters long, or not quite 1 mile, the approximate length of leading European runs. But in 1932, it was 2,350 meters, or almost 1.5 miles long. It had an average grade of 10%. The Stevens brothers built their sled, now on exhibition in this museum, with specially devised V-shaped runners. And before each start, they heated the runners with a blowtorch so that the snow wouldn't stick to them. 12 teams competed. Each had to make the run 4 times. Its total time determined its ranking. The Stevens brothers' time was 8 minutes, 14, and 74/100 seconds. In their final heat, they established a world record for the distance of 1 minute, 57 and 68/100 seconds, equal to an average speed of about 45 miles an hour. Here you see them rounding zigzags, the most dangerous curve on the run, at over 60 miles an hour. American bobsledding received its first big impetus at Lake Placid, a leader in the development of American winter sports. In 1936, at the 4th Olympic Winter Games at Garmisch-Partenkirchen in Germany,
Following a good snowfall, oxen or horses drew a bobsled alongside the skidway, and logs were piled onto the sled. The front ends rested on the sled, and the rear ends trailed in the snow to break descent into the valley. This way of hauling was called bobbing. The bobsled drew logs from many poles.
It was cut in summer since it was necessary to remove the bark before it could be floated downstream, and peeling bark was done while the sack flowed. Hardwood trees like maple and birch floated so poorly that lumbermen ignored them until the advent of truck and rail transport made cutting feasible. In the foreground, two men are peeling a hemlock log. The fixer, just right of center, chops the log in a pattern that loosens the bark.
So cool. I have a diorama. Creek. And there's really bad glare.
On September 12, 1901, Vice President Theodore Roosevelt hiked to the summit of Mount Marcy while on vacation with his family. As Roosevelt and his party descended the mountain, they were met by Guide Harrison Hall. Hall had rushed up the mountain with word that President McKinley, who had been shot 6 days earlier in Buffalo, was dying. Thus began a journey of record-breaking speed to get Roosevelt to the train at North Creek Station to reach the ailing president. Roosevelt and his party hiked 9 miles, from Lake Tier of the Clouds to the Tahawus Club. Leaving just before midnight, Roosevelt traveled by buckboard wagon 10 miles to the Tahawus post office. He changed wagons and traveled 9 miles to Aden Lair Lodge in Minerva. At 3:30 a.m., Mike Cronin, the owner of the lodge, drove Roosevelt the final 16 miles.
To travel in a train is to be hurled from place to place in a box. No chance of getting at the life of the country. In a motor car, you enter into its heart. Its air fills your lungs. You are delightfully exhilarated. You can haste when it pleases you and linger at your will. You are as free as the clouds or birds.
Between North Creek and North River, we met a man and a woman in a buggy. We stopped the car, and the man led the horse into the bushes where he waited until we had passed. Neither of the occupants of the buggy had ever seen a car, which in fact was true of most of the people we met on the road.
Maybe it was short in miles, but it was far from short in hours. At the foot of every downgrade, there was a mud hole, and we stuck in every one of them until help came along to push or pull us out.
Those owning automobiles and motorcycles can now come here from all over the country. Why should not this enchanted land, which is at the doorstep of thousands, not be opened for all?
Stood watch at bends in the banks or on bars or islands to keep logs from clustering there, while others hailed the drive, clearing the shore. Often a log would lodge on a rock, then another would catch on the first, and quickly a log jam would extend itself upstream or from bank to bank. Some jams were dislodged by dynamite, but more often were attacked by men with peavies and pike poles working from the shore or from boats known as jam boats, as shown in the diorama on the right. On the Hudson River, jam boat crews consisted of 3 men, the bowsman, the oarsman, and the steersman. When the oarsman had rowed to the jam, the bowsman hooked his port-pole into the nearest log and pulled the boat alongside. The oarsman jumped out to hold the boat, followed by the bowsman and the steersman, who went forward to attack the pile of logs with their keel. The jam was apt to break suddenly. At the first